Walla Stamping. Thanks for joining me today. So this is the project that I would like to share with you today. It's a card that I created for my husband. Today is his birthday, and I am so glad that I became a demonstrator with Stampin' Up! For this very reason, that I can create beautiful, heartfelt handmade cards for the ones that I love. So this is the card that I'm going to show you how to make. Now let me bring in the papers that I used to make this card with. First of all, you're going to need a piece of Cajun Craze, and it is cut to 8 by 6, scored and folded at 4 inches along the 8-inch side. You're also going to need a piece that is 6 inches by 1/2. Then you'll need a piece of our Petals and Paisleys Specialty Designer Series paper. This is cut at 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. You're going to need 2 pieces of Very Vanilla. One that is cut at 5 3/4 by 3 3/4, which will go on the inside of the card. The other is cut at 5 1/4 by 3 1/4, which will go on the outside of the card. Then you'll need some scrap pieces of some Delightful Dijon, Old Olive, some Always Artichoke, and some copper foil. And I know that you all are going to hear a lot of noises in the background, but I have someone here working on my heating and air, so I apologize for the racket, and hopefully it won't disturb you. But anyways, got to have heat and air. It is November. We can't go without heat when it gets chilly. Also, I'm going to be using the Always Artichoke ink, and with that ink I'm going to be using a couple stamp sets. The first one I'm using is the Paisleys and Posies, and I am using this sentiment that says, "My world is brighter and more beautiful because of you." And the other one I'm using is the Christmas Pines. I'm going to be using this stamp, and that's the only one out of there. Then I'm using the Pretty Pines Thinlits. I'm using, look at that, I've got a piece of washi tape stuck to my finger. I'm going to be using these 3, which will make these little pieces here on top. And I'm using this pine cone, this one, and this one here to cut out the shape that'll go underneath these. I'm also using an item that was from our Halloween night. It's these enamel dots. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and stick the inside of my card in place. And I'm just going to be using some snail to do this with. Let's go ahead and stick this to the front of the card. Get that centered up there. I really like the way that this houndstooth looks against that Cajun Craze and with that Very Vanilla. Then this is the smaller piece of Very Vanilla. This is the piece that was 5 1/4 by 3 1/4. And it's going to go right on top of this Petals and Paisleys paper. I just try to line it up in such a way that those little houndstooth pattern makes a border around it. Then I'm going to go ahead next and do my stamping. So I'm using the Always Artichoke ink, and then I have these leaves that I'm using from the Christmas Pines stamp set. And I'm going to get those inked up. And then I'm putting them kind of to the left hand side. You may not be able to tell exactly where it is, but I'm putting the top of the stamp just about in this area right here. Okay. Well, actually, I'm not going to put that up yet. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment on the inside while I've got my ink open. And I'm just putting this kind of toward the center and in the top, and I can't really get over the top of it to see if I'm getting it in the exact right spot. So hopefully, yep, that's fine. Hopefully I did it. Yay me. All right, so that takes care of that. Then the next thing we're going to do is this little piece that was 6 by 1/2. I'm going to put some snail on the back of that. Let me get some. There we go. And line it up here. I'm putting it just across the tip where I stamped that right there, and lining the edge up with the very edge of the card, and then coming straight across and sticking that down. Now, what I'm going to do next is take my scrap pieces, and I'm going to go to my Big Shot, and I'm going to be cutting out my pine cones and my leaves. So let me go do that, and I will be right back. Okay, so I got all of these pieces cut out. And let me show you which ones I use to cut out which shapes. So the Delightful Dijon, the one that I use to cut this one out with is this die right here. Okay, so this Delightful Dijon cuts this one out. This copper foil piece, I used this die to cut this one out. And then the background under the copper foil, I used this framelit to cut this out. Now for the leaves, the one that is an Always Artichoke, I used the larger one to cut with. And then the two smaller leaves, I cut with the Old Olive. So that's how I did my card. If you want to do yours exactly like I did mine, or you can even do this card in totally different colors if you want to. So what I'm going to do next is just take a little bit of multi-purpose glue, and I'm just going to run it about halfway down the spine of this leaf, and then I'm going to lay it on the card so that it ends up in the middle of these right here. Just like that. Then I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of these other two leaves, and I'm putting this one on there. It kind of curves down. I'm putting this one on here like this that curves down. It's sticking to my finger. And then the little one that's a little bit longer and curves this way, I'm going to put more toward the top. Maybe I'm just putting too much glue on there, huh? Okay, so that gets the leaves stuck down. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is take this pine cone and get some glue on it, and then I'm just pretty much putting it straight up and down, just like this, right on top of those leaves. Gonna hold it for just a second to let it grab a hold. Then I'm going to take my glue and just ever so slightly run it over the back of this copper foil sheet. It isn't going to take very much. Let me get that off my finger. Then just line that up on top of the green, well, I've just lost my thought. What is the color? What is it called? Always Artichoke, that's it. Now I know that you can see a little bit of glue right there, and it's really okay because this glue is going to dry clear and you're not going to see that. So it doesn't really matter if a little bit comes out from underneath. Alright, so I'm going to put some glue on the back of this piece, and then this one I'm putting in more at this angle here. Alright, then I'm going to grab the enamel dots that were from the Halloween night set of papers and embellishments, and I'm going to use one large one and two smaller ones. So I'm going to grab a larger one off of here and put it down right there. Actually, I'm seeing that I did not get this leaf in the exact position that I had the one in prior. So let's see if I can't get that pulled around a little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to take two of the smaller ones and just put them out to the right of the larger one. Oopsie, that one went flying. Make sure they're straight. All right, so there is an additional card just like the one that I fixed for my husband. Now, of course, this card, you could always stamp a sentiment on the front of it, and it doesn't have to be for a birthday. For example, the thankful, grateful, blessed would be an awesome stamp that you could put on the front of this. And you could also use either of these other two sentiments. The one that I put on the inside, you could use that on the outside, or you could just do like I did and just have the decorative aspect on the outside and have your sentiment on the inside. And it leaves you plenty of room to write a personal message to the person you're going to give this to. So I hope that you enjoyed the video today. Below this video, I will leave a link to my blog where you can go and get the instructions for how to create this, and also the list of supplies to order in order to make this card. And if you would like to get in touch with me, you could always send an email at wallastamping@gmail.com and request a catalog. I'd be happy to send one out. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And thank you again for watching, and have a great day.